News with Katie, where you will always get the truth of the news about what's really going on in America, in the streets, and from the White House. Just this past week, the president signed an executive order on protecting the vulnerable newborn and infant children. I want to read to you the executive order that has been already put into law. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered in the following. Section 1, the purpose. Every infant born alive, no matter the circumstances of his or her birth, has the same dignity and the same rights as every other individual and is entitled to the same protections under federal law. Such laws include the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which guarantees in hospitals that have emergency departments each individual's right to an appropriate medical screening examination and to either stabilizing treatment or an appropriate transfer. They also include Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities by programs and activities receiving federal funds. In addition, the Born Alive Infants Protection Act makes it clear that all infants that are born alive are individuals. For purposes of these and other federal laws, and are therefore afforded the same legal protections as any other person. Today, these laws help protect infants born alive from discrimination in the provision of medical treatment, including infants who require emergency medical treatment, who are premature, or who are born with disabilities. Such infants are entitled to meaningful and non-discriminatory access to medical examination and services, with the consent of a parent and or guardian when they present at hospitals receiving federal funds. Now, despite these laws, some hospitals refuse the required medical screening examination and stabilizing treatments or otherwise do not provide potentially life-saving treatments to extremely premature or disabled infants, even when parents plead for such treatment. Hospitals might refuse to provide treatment to extremely premature infants born alive before 24 weeks of gestation. Because they believe these infants may not survive, may have to live with a long-term disability, or may have a quality of life deemed to be inadequate. Active treatment of extremely premature infants has, however, been shown to improve their survival rates. And the denial of such treatment or discouragement of parents from seeking such treatment for their children devalues the lives of these children and may violate federal law. Section 2, the policy. It is the policy of the United States to recognize the human dignity and inherent worth of every newborn or other infant child, regardless of prematurity or disability, and to ensure for each child due protection under the law. And the last section, Section 3. The Secretary of Health and Human Services shall ensure that individuals responsible for all programs and activities under his jurisdiction that receive federal funding are aware of their obligation toward infants, including premature infants or infants with disabilities, who have a medical condition in need of stabilizing treatment under the EMTALA and the Rehab Act, as interpreted consistent with the Born Alive Infants Protection Act. In particular, the Secretary shall ensure that individuals responsible for such programs and activities are aware that they are not excused from complying with these obligations, including the obligation to provide an appropriate medical screening examination and stabilizing treatment or transfer. When extremely premature infants are born alive or infants are born with disabilities. The Secretary shall also ensure that individuals responsible for these such programs and activities are aware that they may not unlawfully discourage parents from seeking medical treatment for their infant child solely based upon the child's disability. The Secretary shall further ensure that individuals responsible for such programs and activities are aware of their obligations to provide stabilizing treatment that will allow the infant patients to be transferred to a more suitable facility if appropriate treatment is not possible at the initial location. The Secretary shall, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, ensure that federal funding dispersed by the Department of Health and Human Services is extended in full compliance. The Secretary shall, as appropriate in the fullest extent permitted by law, investigate complaints of violations of applicable federal laws with respects to infants born alive, including infants who have had an emergency medical condition in need of stabilizing treatment, or infants with disabilities whose parents seek medical treatment for their infants. The Secretary shall also clarify, in an easily understandable format, the process by which parents and hospitals staff may submit such complaints for investigation under applicable federal laws. The Secretary shall take all appropriate enforcement action against individuals and organizations found through investigation to have violated the federal laws, up to and including termination of federal funding for non-compliant programs and activities. And I'll end with the Secretary shall, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, prioritize the allocation of the Department of Health and Human Services discretionary grant funding to programs and activities, including hospitals, that provide medical training to medical personnel regarding the provision of life-saving medical treatments to all infants born alive, including premature infants or infants with disabilities who have had an emergency medical condition in need of a stabilizing treatment. This was signed into law, Americans, because there are many times when babies are born alive and treatment is not given to babies with certain conditions, and they're literally laid on the table to die with no treatment, but no more. Any baby that is born alive is considered a citizen and a human of valuable worth to our country. Even at conception, they are, but this law is specifically saying that, one step at a time. So thank you, President Trump, for protecting the newborns and the infants. May God bless your children. May God bless the children of America, and God bless the United States. See you next time.